Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the FDT-TV podcast. You join us on a week where the world has been hit by some tragic news. Queen Elizabeth II has sadly passed away, a lady that has impacted millions and millions of people around the world. Is ahead of a commonwealth of several countries and generally done pretty good, I would say. Not everyone agrees, but I think when you look at all the things she does or did, you can't argue. I mean, she handed Bobby Moore the World Cup for one. So even on that act alone, you can't fault it. But yeah, so our thoughts are obviously with her family and close friends. They're doing public duties at the minute, which I can't imagine is easy at all. Oh, by the way, your mum, your nan, your sister, whatever, has just died. Go and meet millions of people.
Yeah,
yeah.
That was one of the things I found inspiring. I think is the only word I can think to use for that, because obviously they were with Her Majesty the Queen on the Thursday, and on the Friday they're travelling back down to Buckingham Palace to shake hands with a load of people outside the palace and all that sort of stuff. And
yeah,
just seeing the amount of stuff. Obviously, I was close to the Queen's the Queen's coronation, but only by a few years I missed it. But no, just seeing the amount of stuff that goes on in order to obviously update to the new king has been astounding. All the stuff that I have to go through, documents I have to sign, declarations I have to make, promises I have to make. One thing I did find was a little bit astonishing was that one of the declarations state that all the inheritance and stuff that they get from Her Majesty is that donated or given to the government, and then they get an allowance from that for all their state duties and stuff, which is crazy. I mean, obviously I know times have changed in the last 500-600 years, but
you can't imagine it, can you?
No, it's crazy. It's crazy that obviously they don't, or you think that they've got all this money and power and stuff. And yes, obviously they have got a lot of money and power, but the fact that in order for there to be a sovereign or a monarchy within this country, it's almost like they're paying for the privilege to do that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but
Well,
hey, that's just my opinion.
Say, and you mentioned there something that is positive news out of it. What you can take, obviously, we have a new king, King Charles III. So I think he's got some very big shoes to fill, but I'm sure he will do just fine. There was a song popped into my head then, but I thought that's not appropriate. What I would say though is and obviously I love a conspiracy. I love a conspiracy, and I've said it for a little while that the Queen needs to step up and dissolve government. The last two King Charleses have dissolved the government. So how long is it before he goes in there and goes, you know what, you lot are a bunch of fucking idiots, and I'm taking back control. You can all fuck off, and I'll sort it out myself.
I doubt that will happen, but what I do see happening,
wouldn't it be good though?
It would be amazing. But hear me out. This is my little conspiracy.
Go on.
Is we know that Prince William is, I believe, the head of the FA.
He is, yes.
So does King Charles say to William, look, VAR doesn't work.
Fuck it off.
Yes. You know what I mean?
Oh, mate.
There we go.
Two things that he could do to win over 100% of public opinion. Dissolve government and get rid of VAR. I mean, already he's rated above the Queen, isn't he? If he does those two things. But yeah, so...
I'll just settle for VAR.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I mean, is it... Obviously, we are having a little bit of a joke at this time of sorrow, but it is what it is. In other sad news, Thomas Tuchel lost his job.
Yes.
Obviously, prior to the Queen dying, that was the big news. So I think he himself is quite glad that the timings of it, because he's then taken out of the firing line from people. But the general consensus seemed to be that Chelsea fans were upset. They were quite happy with him in charge, and they were hoping that this sort of sacking culture of Chelsea had ended when when Abramovich had gone. There are other reports saying that it was already decided before the West Ham game, and he played the West Ham game, and then he lost to somebody else who West Ham actually beat last year in the Europa League. Sparta, was it? It wasn't Sparta Prague, was it? It was I can't remember, but they lost anyway.
Yes.
But yeah, so the general consensus is he was doing a good job. He'd won the Champions League. Okay, we're going a bit of patchy form at the minute, but lots of players have been brought in that have come out that were nothing to do with him. They were all buyers from the board. And the window had closed, 4 days before he got sacked. So it was one of those that fans were hopeful that actually by the end of the season, the team would have gelled. Lots of change, lots of upheaval at the club, and it's all gone wrong. But my question to you, Mike, is if you was Todd Boehly, the owner of Chelsea, would you have sacked him?
I suppose it depends on what. Obviously, he's been very, or as far as we understand, he's been very vocal and very. What's the word I'm thinking of? Influential, I think, in some of the transfer decisions that were made.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's got a lot of money. He's gone out and gone, I want this player, I'll chuck money at it. I want this player, I'll chuck money at it. And it does raise a further question, which I will come back to. But I suppose when you come into that sort of club, you must have an idea of the goings on within the club. And if you've got someone that doesn't tickle your fancy, I think you can find any excuse to move on. And I think that's purely what's happened on this occasion. I think he wants to show that he's the all-seeing boss man. And if you don't agree with it, then you kind of jog on, sort of thing. And it's not like he can say he hasn't been backed, because I think they spent like £250 million or something stupid within the last transfer window. But it is just crazy. They spent all that money and hasn't given Thomas Tuchel the time for his players to gel and bond together, as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And the question, which I heard on the radio, was, out of that £250 million, were they Thomas Tuchel signings or were they new Chelsea owner signings? And if they're new Chelsea owner signings, that may be some sort of disagreement that the manager and the owner have had. And it's just gone, do you know what? We've seen some terrible results by Chelsea standards within the first few weeks of the league. Let's make the changes. Let's make further changes now. Well, I'll get in a manager who will want to get in.
Yeah.
He's done great thing at Oshterson's. He's done great things at, I think he was at Swansea or something beforehand.
Yes, I believe he was.
And then obviously going on to Brighton, where I think people will look at what he's done with Brighton on a shoestring budget by comparative standards. And yeah, they've kind of gone, this could be the right man for us as an English manager.
Yep.
And maybe they want to bring that kind of core mentality, the British core mentality, to an English club. And I know that sounds a little bit xenophobic, but I'm not, because there's some massive managers within the Premier League which I admire. So yeah, I think it's a strange decision that they made so early on in the season, and I think going back to the start of the season, regardless of any results that happened, obviously we know the previous culture at Chelsea. You can go and win the Champions League and then the next season you're sacked. But I don't think either of us would have considered that Thomas Tuchel would be sacked from Chelsea.
I didn't think it would happen so soon. I thought it would happen when Bohey took over, or Bowley, I don't know how you pronounce it, and you looked at the positions he got rid of. So he got rid of Petr Cech as their whatever position he held, their liaison man. That he got rid of the director of football. He got rid of all the backroom staff. He got rid of everybody, and put in his own appointments. Now, he didn't get rid of Tuchel. To do that when he took over before the season had started, I think there would have been a riot at Chelsea, because this guy's actually done really well. He's won the Champions League, he's done this, done that, and actually we finished the season fairly strong. I think his days were numbered because he wanted his own man in. Now, when you look at his other franchises across the world in America, he tends to stick with a manager for a long time, but when he first takes over, everyone's gone. And it's his people. Now, I think that he jumped at the chance where actually they beat us, but under dubious circumstance, which has since been told they shouldn't have beaten us. They lost in the Champions League to a team they shouldn't have lost to. And I think he would have thought, actually, there will be a core of the Chelsea fans who go, this is not good enough, we need to get a different person in, because that's in the culture, so there's nothing wrong with that. I think he maybe should have waited, but then if you want your own man in, you want them to buy into your philosophy, it's then hard to do that. If he's then successful, how do you get rid of him? You can't, you've got to stick with it. I think with looking at the appointment of Graham Potter, I think Chelsea over the next 5 years will be successful. He does get teams playing well. The one thing I would say is that Brighton have struggled for goals. For long periods of last season, I think they went 13 games without a win, something like that, only last season. And I've been doing a bit of reading, a bit of Twitter, a bit of listening. From what I can gather, Brighton fans are saying we would have been much higher than we were, but Brighton are not in a position to then go and spend the big money on the big striker that would get you 20 goals a season. If we had that, then we'd be up there. And they're doing it this season. They're fourth at the minute? So that's fantastic. But he has that persona about him, and this is a big jump. Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger. He come in, Oostersen's, he did it. He ran the youth teams, he ran this, he ran that. He wants control of that club, working with the owner. He did it at Swansea and got noticed even more. Did it with the owner. At Brighton, he's done a fantastic job and again, from top to bottom, has taken control of the club. This is what we want to happen. This is the vision. Shared it with the owner. So he's moved on to Chelsea, and I think, he wants someone a bit. Say Mourinho was similar, but not quite. I don't think as long term. That he wants to know what's going on from top to bottom of that club, because if we're failing at grassroots level, then in 5 years' time, when they're meant to be coming into the first team, they're not going to be ready. We're not going to have any players. And he wants all those strings pulled in one direction all the same. And he wants Graham Potter to be that person, because he's giving them a 5-year contract. Seemingly, unless it goes really pear-shaped, I think he will get the longest time we've seen as a Chelsea manager, which could lead on to a longer contract even after that, or he'll got shot off by next Christmas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like Graham Potter. When he first came in, everyone's been like, who's this geezer? He went to Belgium or wherever it was, Norway, to manage his team. And since then, I think he's quite a likeable guy. And I don't think there's a fan base around the country who go, I don't like him. Don't like him.
Yeah.
Which is why I think, again, public perception, people don't like Chelsea. But Graham Potter's all right, isn't he? He's in charge of that. That must be all right then. I think in some senses, psychologically, that he may be trying to change some opinions of stuff. So yeah, it's all interesting.
Okay, my question to you then would be, obviously we've had some suspensions of the games for obvious reasons.
Yes.
But how long do you give him if he goes the next 6 games?
What with like dodgy results? I don't see him if he's going to be got. He will be given to the end of this season, and I would say probably, as I said, to January next season, regardless of results.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is when you look at Chelsea's squad, all right, they've lost some big names. Regardless of who's in charge, you could put anyone in charge of that club, and they will end up the right end of the table. And it was a bit like Manchester United. They started off really dodgy, but I don't think anyone, as much as it was a laugh to say they were really bad and they get relegated, and Arsenal last year, your bad start.
Yep.
I don't think anyone is under the impression that they will end up at the wrong end of the table, regardless of what's going on. You have the most dysfunctional squad ever, but there's the sheer footballing talent in there, and the fact he's said he's shown his cards. He's prepared to throw money at it. Come January, he goes, right, this one's no good, this one's no good, this one's no good. We'll see a lot of outs at Chelsea, and then we'll probably see Moyes Caicedo coming in. We'll probably see, obviously he already knows Cucurella, and we might see Lamptey come back to the squad. But I think you'll start to see Graham Potter doing a bit of what Arteta did, and going through the riffraff and getting rid of them.
Yeah.
I had a better way of saying that, but my brain didn't let me. But yeah, no, I think you've got minimum of till December 2023 before.
Okay.
And if it's still looking really ropey, then say they're like 8th in the table, then I think you might go, this isn't going. But I think there's a lot more behind the scenes that he wants him to sort out as well.
Fair enough.
But that leads us on to a rumour. And that rumour is that has come out today.
I didn't do it.
Well, I don't know what rumour you're on about. I'm talking about Thomas Tuchel taking over from David Moyes.
Oh no, I did do that one.
So this is the rumour, is that obviously there is happiness with David Moyes because he's finished 7th consecutively, or 7th and 8th, or 6th and 7th, I can't remember what it is. But we've had 2 really good seasons. We've started off a little bit ropey. We're starting to get there. There's been a lot of money spent, but there's a large contingent of the crowd who are not happy with him for one reason or another, whether it's not starting these new signings, whether it's late substitutions, whether it's playing the same tactics and waiting 60 minutes before we start playing. And the rumour is that obviously now Tuchel's unattached. He's a Champions League winner. He's managed at some big clubs in his time. There is some rumour that we're going to sack Moyes and bring in Tuchel. And I can see it will either go one of 2 ways. It will be very successful, or it will go the way of Pellegrini. He's won stuff, so he must be able to win it here. Actually, we almost get relegated. I think it's I don't know. I mean, what's your opinion of it from a neutral perspective? Because I think it's potentially a dangerous time to get rid of him for something that is not a sure thing.
I completely agree. Obviously, you mentioned Pellegrini. I think that's the perfect example because you had David Moyes, you sacked him, you got the big name in, and then you realised it was maybe the big names aren't on everything. And then it was tails between your legs. Please, Mr. Moyes, can you come back to us? And he's done an absolutely outstanding job. I think for the last 2 seasons, West Ham, I wouldn't say have overachieved in any stretch of the imagination. I think you got to where you have out of merit. I think the difference this year, as you mentioned, you had a bit of a poor start, but I don't think that's any reflection on the management or the teams. Don't forget you've lost a few key players as well. I think that noticeably Mark Noble is a big influential person within the dressing room, and if you've not got that sort of level of person within the dressing room to G up the team before the start of a game, it's going to be sorely missed, I think. And as you mentioned, your results are starting to pick up a little bit for you. And I think it will be, the word I'm going to use is suicidal, for you to get rid of David Moyes again.
Yep. Okay. I can see that. My biggest thing is, and it's hard. I like David Moyes, and I like the way that he conducted himself and the attitude that he brought with him, both the first time and the second time. I don't think we should have got rid of him at that point. What I can see is that, unfortunately, he's so set in his ways of, this is what I want to do, and this is how I want to do it, that we probably last year should have finished higher than we did. And the reason we didn't is that come January, when we had the chance to buy a striker and just get one or two little reinforcements to put in some squad depth, he refused. And it's been confirmed that the board had money to spend and were trying to spend it. That the Rafinha and Calvin Phillips on deadline day was nothing to do with David Moyes. They went above him and went, no, we're going to try and sign these players. We didn't get either of them. But I think potentially he's going to be his own undoing, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because of his stubbornness, and we all know he can make it work because he did it at Everton for so long. But what did Everton win? And I think that's now the point that we're at. Do we stay building and building and building, and hopefully it grows into something, or do you take the chance that, all right, it's not, grass isn't always greener, we've learnt that, but Pellegrini was never the reason Manchester City won the title. Do you go, this guy has won, he's won in Germany, he's won in France, he's now won in England. Do you go, okay, there is something about it. This is how his way of playing football, although not always the most successful, would tick the box of the West Ham way, as people put it. But if we don't change it now, I don't know. This is all if buts and maybes. If we stick with Moyes and we finish 10th, because the strength of some of the teams this year is phenomenal, and I think it's a lot more competitive than it has been in a long time. If we finish 10th, because we've got Conference League as well, and there's extra games and this and the other, people are going to start going, well, that's shit. We're now not in Europe. We're now not this. So some of the big players that we've got, I don't want to say names, but will go, or I don't want to be here anymore. Maybe one of them's right there. But then you've got the other side of things of, you can't then attract the players because you're not playing in European competitions. And then you go, oh, we're now in the same place that we were 5 years ago, where we've got relegation fight in our hands over the next 2 years. Or do you take the punt and go, okay, we're not going to, I don't think he would get us relegated. I don't think it's an Avram Grant situation. But we could potentially go, right, this is how we play against the big boys. He's not got a bad record against the big teams. And I don't know, he's got a similar tact to David Moyes in, this is what I want, this is how I want it to happen. But he always seems to have happy campers. There's never seemed to be anyone who's been unhappy under him. And that may be his public his public perception and the way he manages his media conferences and his players' media conferences. But surely that's a good thing. So I'm a little bit. It's a rumour at this point, but I am a little bit on the fence as to whether we should do it or not.
Yeah.
And it's like, David Moyes is safe. He's safe. We know he's safe. We know he's not going to get relegated. Well, we hope he's not going to get relegated. And it's hard because obviously you've done it. You had Arsene Wenger for so long. You knew what a success was. You knew how it happened. And then you went to Emery, who had success abroad, and it sort of worked. You won something, didn't you? But it wasn't. You won the FA Cup under him, didn't you? Or did you?
No, that was Arteta.
Was it Arteta? But
yeah.
So it wasn't quite happy families. You was on the way to winning the FA Cup though, and then Arteta won the FA Cup for you.
And we also got to the Europa League final, I think, two years out of 3.
Was that under Emery?
I think 2 were under Emery, 1 was under Arteta.
Yeah.
So
it's one of those, it worked, but it wasn't, you knew it wasn't a success because you know what success looked like, and it wasn't Happy Family. And then Arteta's come in, and it's taken him 3 years to get to the point where actually he's weaning out the bad apples. It's taken time to do that. It's taken complete trust from the board and the backroom staff for him to be able to do that and get rid of players. And now you're starting to see some success out of it. West Ham fans are not that patient. And I know it's...
Neither are Arsenal fans, mate. You've seen bloody the shit that comes out on Twitter. It's absolutely unreal.
Yeah, but
some of the people.
We're so fickle.
Ridiculous.
Within 45 minutes, we can have the best thing since sliced bread and then sack him. So it's one of those. West Ham fans are not going to give you 3 years. We've not had success for fucking ages. But we're not going to give you 3 years to sort it out, which is what maybe we need to do. But yeah, let us. I think the best thing to do with this is go over to the YouTube channel, press subscribe for one, and let us know what your opinion is on it. Should David Moyes lose his job for Thomas Tuchel? Do you think that would be the correct appointment? But
if not, where does he go?
What, Tuchel?
Throwing it back at you. Yep.
Oh, I think he'd be quite happy with his payout from Chelsea. It's like 40-odd million quid, apparently. Don't know if that's true, but just go, I'll retire now, thank you. Well, he won't. He's a football manager. They never do. What we will say, though, is football is back on as of tomorrow in the Football League. And the Premier League is back with 3 exceptions on Friday. So, obviously, the game is going ahead on Friday. On Saturday, the Brighton Hove Albion game against Crystal Palace has been postponed. And on Sunday, there has been some changes in times, but Manchester United versus Leeds and Chelsea versus Liverpool are postponed. The Arsenal game has been moved forward half hour, so it's now 12 o'clock kickoff. The West Ham game has been moved back 15 minutes, so it is now a 2:15 kickoff, but both allegedly are on Sky. What they've done is they've said, yes, we can put the games on, but no, we don't have enough police presence or security presence to be able to make that happen. And obviously that's because the Queen's died, a body's going to be on show. There's a funeral on Monday. There's a lot of resource being pulled from around the country to make sure that event goes down without any hitches. So it's sort of understandable. I think we're going to, with the World Cup and the international break coming soon, but if with the World Cup being in December and the season starting early and it being late, we're going to struggle to try and fit in some of these fixtures. Especially like Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool, they're all in European games. They're all in cup games. They're going to moan that, I've got to play 3 games in a week. But yeah, so they've been postponed, but that's that. But that does move us on to the predictions. Obviously, there were predictions, but they've fallen to the wayside because everything was cancelled. But this week, obviously Brentford take on Arsenal, Everton take on West Ham. But where do we stand currently? Over to you, Mr. Mike.
As in what the season totals so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so the games aside from the weekend, obviously, as you just mentioned, were cancelled. So looking at the scores as they stand in the FIFA Day Trophy Predictions Trophy, as you can see just under Ian's hand there, it's a very lovely trophy. I've had it for 2 years out of 3. I'm very disappointed to have lost it. But yes, so you are currently on 16 points. I'm on 15.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very close. I'm just trying to see if there are... So yeah, there is another standout fixture this weekend, which I think we should throw into the mix. Chelsea versus Liverpool, I think, is the bonus fixture for this week.
It's been postponed.
Oh, you just said that, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, can we still predict it? I predict postponement.
Yeah, I predict there'll be lots of annoyed people. We could do Tottenham Leicester if you like. That's almost 2 counteracting ends of the table. Or Diego Costa's first game for Wolves against Manchester City.
I was going to go for PP on the Chelsea Liverpool game. I reckon I've got it as well. All right, let's just keep it at our 2 games.
Okay.
Honestly, I was listening. I swear to God.
So just quickly, because I have just thought the relegation or the El Sacchio, wasn't it, between Gerrard and Brendan Rodgers was postponed, so they both kept their jobs for an extra week.
Gerrard and Lampard, mate.
No, they weren't playing each other. Leicester were playing Villa.
Oh, sorry, I see what you're saying.
Sacchio, whoever lost was going to get sacked.
Our predictions.
No. Last week, my prediction was whoever loses that game gets sacked. But yeah, but go on.
Okay. Yes. So Brentford versus Arsenal. Brentford have had an okay start to the season. I think, they're currently sitting in 8th position, 9 points already this season so far. We have stayed on top of the Premier League for another week. Come on, you Gunners. I think this is going to be a tough one, especially playing away as well for this. Brentford have shown some resilience already against the bigger teams, and I think they're going to give us a game. However, I do think that this extra week off that we've had may do us a favour in terms of some of the knocks and injuries and stuff that we picked up in recent weeks. So I believe Thomas Partey was back in full training last week, so this may come as a thankful break. I didn't know, not thankful, do you know what I mean, because of the crap circumstances, but it may do us a favour. Where do I go with this? This is a hard one. I'm going to go for an Arsenal. Do you know what? I'm going to be confident. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Arsenal. Again, I can't see us keeping a clean sheet. We'd like to give away stupid goals. I think we'll concede first and bang 3 away.
Yeah, and I think in fairness, your game against Ajax was postponed as well, so that gives you an extra break. Brentford, they were on a drawing streak, wasn't they? Drew Crystal Palace, then they drew with Everton, but then they blew Leeds out the water 5-2. And obviously your last game was a loss against
United.
I'm going to go 2-2.
Okay.
I don't know why. I got the feeling it's going to be a score draw, 2-2.
To be honest, mate, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm just trying to be positive, getting back to winning ways after the ridiculous defeat against Manchester United. So, Everton versus West Ham, Ian.
Yes, so Everton are actually above West Ham in the table. They're one of 2 teams without a win, however, but they do have 4 draws and 2 losses. West Ham, on the other hand, 1 win, 1 draw, 4 losses. Difficult one because our last match should have been a draw, which would have helped us out a little bit. I think it's a difficult one because Everton and West Ham, I describe Everton as like the West Ham of the North. Both similar sort of clubs, both fickle fans but very loyal. I'm going to go with because we've played on Thursday, I'm going to say Everton are going to be fresher and they're going to record the first win of their season. I'm going to go 2-1 to Everton. I'm not confident.
I have to change that then because I literally 2-1 put it. I thought you were going to go for a 2-2 draw, to be honest. Do you know what? I do agree with you. I think Everton are going to get a win for the season. Looking at the performance against Liverpool, with some of the new signings that they've made, I think they're going to run riot. In fact, do you know what? I'm going to change that. I'm going to go to 3-1.
It's one of those fixtures where on paper you go, West Ham should win this. And it's because of that. Because when you looked at our fixtures, it was like, fucking, we've got to play, whether it was before Chelsea, and then we got that, and then we got, okay, Everton's going to be the first time we pick up points in the next 4 games. And it's like, because of that, that's why they're going to beat us.
Like I said, but for me, their performance against Liverpool, I know,
phenomenal. They should have won that. They were cheating out of that win.
I know Liverpool have had a bit of a torrid time already as well at the start of the season, obviously talking about Chelsea. But yeah, Everton looked absolutely phenomenal. Am I being too ambitious with... No, fuck it, I'm going to stick with a 3-1. If
Change
not,
it and it will come in, that's the problem.
Speaking of which...
Yes?
In fact, sorry, I'll come back to that in just 2 seconds. So, just to recap. Brentford versus Arsenal, Sunday, 12 o'clock. You've gone for 2-2. I've gone for 3-1 to Arsenal.
Yep.
Everton versus West Ham. You've gone for 2-1 to Everton. I've gone 3-1 to Everton. My next question, speaking of sacking, El Sacchio or whatever, Brendan Rodgers.
Yes?
He has come on... Not Brendan Rodgers. I'm not talking about Brendan Rodgers. Jurgen Klopp. It's an easy mistake to make. Easy mistake to make. Jurgen Klopp. Where do you sit with him as it stands at the moment? Obviously, with Liverpool's performances, he's basically come out and said, "We need to unite. We need to get a rocket up our asses and quick."
So obviously, you know that my thoughts on what was going to happen to Liverpool this season before the season started. Beginning of last season, he fell out with his best mate, who was his assistant manager everywhere. So he's now not got a sort of a long trusted old friend to help him. Do you know what I think is going to happen? I think Liverpool are going to struggle. I think they'll be all right. Again, quality of the player they've got, they'll be the right end of the table by the end of the season. But I think what's going to happen is going to be some real dodgy results. They're going to knock out the group stage of the Champions League and go into Europa League. And at that point, somebody is going to leak things about asthma. And they're going to go, well, this isn't right. Although it's not illegal, that's not the perception that we want to be putting out as a club. So for that reason, we're going to have to get rid of you. And try and do it under that, because it's not a case of, well, it's not that. This is not what we should be portraying as a club. And I think they're going to use that as a scapegoat, because you're in charge. You should have seen it, and you should have done something about it. But yeah, I think come the end of the group stages of the Champions League, I think they will sack him.
Okay. So looking back at our predictions for the league, obviously we did an episode on that. You can go back through our videos and just check that. We had Liverpool sitting within the 5th, 6th spot, so between them and Manchester United. Obviously looking at their current form and looking at how well they've played this season, do you think that we are kind of still on the money for them to finish that high, or do you think it could be lower?
No, I think they will. That obviously they've got VAR going in their favour, as you could see in the Everton game. They have got players who've got ability to be able to pull a result out of the bag from anywhere. Okay, they've been a bit ropey defensively, but that will change at some point. I think as players, and this is the other thing, as the players, if they start losing, the players will then lose confidence in the manager, and it will lose the dressing room, etc., etc. We've all seen it before. New manager comes in, new bounce, strong second half of the season once, obviously after the World Cup, which will then push them right back up to where they need to be. So that's the way I see that going.
Okay.
But they have released the schedule for the World Cup. Speaking of the World Cup, so England are actually the second game of the World Cup.
Nice.
Where we take the home game against Iran. He says the home game. It's going to be on Monday the 21st of November. And it is going to be England versus Iran at the Khalifa International Stadium in Al Rayyan at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, I thought it was going to say morning there. Oh.
No, in fairness, most of the obviously the kickoff for the World Cup is at 7 o'clock in the evening, but it seems to be 1 p.m, 4 p.m, 7, then 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock. So it all seems to be quite reasonable times considering where in the world it is. And I thought it would have been like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to play it. Like we're gonna have to get up really early or stay up really late. But yeah, they all seem to be reasonable kickoffs or reasonable kickoff times. But it starts on. Here's some stats. It starts on Sunday the 20th of November, and the final is actually on Sunday the 18th of December. So over a month of World Cup football every day almost. For a fair time. Yeah,
just in time for Christmas. Will we see? Obviously, we see the success of the women within the last Euros. Will we see the success, or the same success for the men?
No, we're getting knocked out of the group stage and Gav gets sacked. But there is a more important date. There is a more important date after that, Mike, and that date is the 26th of December.
Boxing Day,
when the Premier League returns. So I'm not saying that I could just skip from sort of 20th of November to the 18th of December. But, yeah, I'm not going to be supporting England. Let's put it that way. Well, I will be, but I don't hold high hopes for us.
You never know. They might pleasantly surprise us. They have done every year that we've been completely pessimistic about the England football team. Obviously, a final and a semi-final in the last two major competitions. So...
yeah, well, I mean...
it won't be out yet.
Our group is Iran, USA and Wales. So obviously we'll get into that a little bit closer to the time. But I can see USA and Wales going through in those group stages. I think Wales will be up for beating us, and the USA will see another Rob Green moment. Do you know what I mean?
That won't be televised because it will cut to some car advert or something.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's all fun and games until it's not. But yeah, so that's what that is. And Diego Costa is back in the Premier League. I don't think he'll have much impact this time. He's a fair bit older. Times have changed, and he's also playing for Wolves, which is really weird because he's not Portuguese. Or is he? He's changed once. He might change again. Who knows? So I don't really have anything else to add to this week's podcast. So if you say no.
Yeah, nothing from me.
Yeah, so if you haven't already, go over to the YouTube channel. Look out for the big gold cup. Press subscribe on there. And yeah, if not, then we are available in video and audio on all other streaming platforms or any that are worth watching. But until next time, I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
And we will see you next week.
Thanks very much.
Goodbye.